The last rays of Helios 7's crimson sunset filtered through the dusty windows of Elias Novik's habitat module. Outside, the howling winds carried red sand that perpetually scratched against the metal walls of his modest dwelling on the colony's outskirts. 6 standard months of working as the settlement's environmental systems technician had earned him little but calloused hands and crushing solitude. Delivery for Technician Novak. The transport droid's metallic voice crackled through the intercom. Prize claim from Colony Lottery. 1 standard companionship crate. Elias ran a hand through his unkempt brown hair, barely remembering the lottery ticket he purchased in a moment of weakness. The settlement counselor had suggested he get something living to combat his isolation depression. He'd hoped for one of those new genetically engineered calico foxes, smart, affectionate creatures bred for frontier life. Authenticate and receive, he commanded, pressing his thumb against the scanner. The loading bay doors groaned open, and the droid deposited a large hexagonal container emblazoned with gleaming corporate logos and animated advertisements. Companion CRAT, TUM. Never be alone again. Enjoy your prize, citizen, the droid chirped before gliding away into the gathering dusk. Elias approached the crate cautiously. It seemed larger than necessary for a fox or similar creature. A faint humming emanated from within, probably the stasis field. He pressed the release sequence and stepped back as the crate's 6 panels began to unfold like a blooming flower. A cloud of condensation billowed out, and Elias waved it away, expecting to see a small animal. Instead, his breath caught in his throat. A woman stood in the center of the open crate. No, not a woman. Something close to human but undeniably alien. Her skin was the palest blue, almost translucent in places, revealing a faint network of silvery veins beneath. Her eyes were large and almond-shaped, iris-less pools of deep violet that seemed to shimmer in the habitat's harsh lighting. She wore a simple white shift that barely covered her slender form, and her platinum-white hair fell in straight sheets to her waist. She swayed slightly, disoriented from stasis, before fixing those unsettling violet eyes directly on Elias. Her delicate hands, completely human-looking except for their color, clenched into fists. Elias stammered, backing away. There's been a mistake. The alien woman remained silent, but her posture grew more rigid, defensive. She glanced around the habitat, clearly assessing escape routes, threats, resources. I didn't order. Elias continued. I was expecting a pet. An animal. Not a. I am not your pet, she said suddenly, her voice unexpectedly melodic despite the harshness of her tone. Her command of standard was perfect, though her accent placed unusual emphasis on vowels. I am not your slave, your toy, or your possession. Elias raised his hands. I don't want you to be any of those things. I didn't know. You purchased me, she accused. No, I won a lottery. For a companion animal. There's been a mistake. Something in his voice, perhaps the genuine horror, seemed to give her pause. Her eyes narrowed as she studied him more carefully. What is your designation and function? She demanded. Elias Novak, Environmental Systems Technician. He gestured vaguely at his habitat. I fix air scrubbers, water reclamation units, that sort of thing. She tilted her head slightly. You are not a military officer. Not security personnel. Just a tech. Look, I should call the company. This is illegal. Sentient trafficking is. No. Her first display of fear flashed across her face. No authorities. No communications. They will kill me. The last rays of sunlight disappeared, plunging the habitat into artificial illumination that cast harsh shadows across her alien features. In that moment, Elias realized his simple life had just become extraordinarily complicated. All right, he said carefully. Why don't you tell me your name, and we'll figure this out. After a long, tense silence, she answered. I am called Talia. 3 days had passed since Talia emerged from the companion crate, and Elias's habitat had never felt smaller. She kept to the spare room, emerging only when necessary, watching him with those unsettling violet eyes. She'd accepted food and basic necessities, but volunteered nothing about herself. On the fourth morning, Elias returned from his shift to find Talia examining his collection of old Earth novels, actual printed books he'd inherited from his grandmother. "These artifacts," she said without turning, "they contain your species' stories." "Yes." Elias approached cautiously. "My favorite is that blue one, Bradbury." Talia traced a slender blue finger along the book's spine. "On my world, stories are kept in crystalline matrices. When touched, they project directly into the mind." It was the most she'd spoken at once. Elias seized the opportunity. "Your world, what's it called?" She stiffened, then seemed to make a decision. "Celestia Prime, third planet in the Lyrian cluster. I've never heard of it. Few humans have. My people avoid publicizing our existence." She turned to face him fully. "Your species tends to covet what is different. Is that what happened to you? Someone coveted you." Talia's gaze dropped to the floor. Was a junior member of the Celestian royal house. During the Festival of Ascension, separatist forces attacked the palace. In the chaos, I was taken." Her voice remained steady, but her hands trembled. "The rebels sold me to off-world traffickers specializing in exotic companions." Elias felt sick. "I'm sorry. I had no idea the lottery was a front for trafficking. Most winners receive what they expect, but the most valuable prizes are reserved for remote locations, places where questions won't be asked." She glanced toward the window. "Like this colony. I should report this." "No." Talia moved with startling speed, grasping his arm. Her touch sent an unexpected warmth through him. "The traffickers have connections within your colonial administration, and the rebels who sold me have agents searching. If you report me, I'll be dead within days." Elias looked down at her hand on his arm. 5 fingers, just like his, but with intricate patterns beneath her translucent skin. When he met her eyes again, the fear in them was unmistakable. "Why should I trust you?" he asked softly. She released his arm and stepped back. Then, with deliberate movements, she pulled her hair away from the nape of her neck, revealing an intricate marking, part tattoo, part bioluminescent implant. "This is the royal seal of House Astraea. It cannot be counterfeited." The marking pulsed with soft blue light. "I am Talia Astraea, 7th daughter of the celestial throne. And if I am returned to my world right now, I will be executed as a traitor." Elias sank into a chair. "Why?" "Because the rebels who took me were led by my own cousin. He staged the kidnapping to remove me as a threat, then claimed I defected willingly." Her voice hardened. "I would rather die here than be used to validate his lies." Outside, the red winds of Helios 7 battered the habitat. Inside, Elias watched this alien princess who had fallen into his life by terrible chance. "You're safe here," he said finally, "at least until we figure something out." That night, he gave Talia his bed and slept on the floor of his own living room. Before dawn, he woke to find her kneeling beside him, studying his face in the dim light. "You're the first human who has seen me as a person," she whispered, "not a curiosity or a prize." When she returned to the bedroom, Elias remained awake, realizing that his lonely existence had been irrevocably altered, and that despite the danger, he wasn't entirely sorry. Elias noticed the strangers a week later, 3 men in civilian clothes whose stiff postures screamed military training. They lingered near the Environmental Control Center, asking casual questions about recent deliveries and lottery winners. "They're getting bolder," Elias told Talia that evening, sealing the habitat's security protocols. "Someone at the company must have tracked the crate here." Talia paced the small living area, her movements graceful despite her agitation. "They're not from the trafficking syndicate. The way you describe them, they're Celestian agents. My cousin's men." "How can you be sure?" "The physical enhancements you mentioned. The reinforced knuckles, the throat implants, those are Celestian military modifications. She stopped pacing. They won't stop looking. Elias ran a hand through his hair. My next rotation gives me 3 days off. We could try reaching the southern outpost. They have ships leaving for the central systems. They'll be watching transport hubs. Talia approached him, close enough that he could see the subtle patterns shifting beneath her skin, emotional indicators he'd learned, currently showing fear and something else. Elias, you should turn me in. What? No. I've brought danger to your door. These men won't hesitate to kill a human who interferes. Elias stepped closer. I'm not turning you in. Why? Her violet eyes searched his face. You owe me nothing. The question hung between them. Why indeed? He barely knew her, yet the thought of surrendering her to her enemies made his chest tighten painfully. Maybe I'm tired of fixing air scrubbers, he said with a half smile. Maybe helping an alien princess escape assassins seems more interesting. Talia didn't return his smile. Instead, she raised a hand to his face, her cool fingertips tracing his jawline with wondering exploration. Elias's breath caught at the unexpected intimacy. Your kind is emotional to a fault, she murmured, but there was no criticism in her tone. The moment shattered as the habitat's proximity alarm blared. The security screen showed 3 figures approaching through the swirling red dust. The maintenance tunnels, Elias said, grabbing an emergency pack he prepared. They connect to the old mining systems. We can lose them underground. They slipped out through the habitat's service hatch just as the front entry panel began to spark from forced entry. Elias led Talia through narrow utility corridors, the colony's lifelines of pipes and conduits their only companions. After an hour of tense navigation, they emerged in an abandoned section of the original mining operation. Ancient machinery loomed like prehistoric skeletons in the vast cavern. We should be safe here temporarily, Elias said, setting up a small light. The mineral deposits interfere with bioscanners. Talia sank down against a rock wall, exhaustion finally claiming her. You've prepared for this. You actually planned our escape. Elias shrugged, unpacking emergency rations. I told you I'd help you. No one helps without reason, she said softly. In the dim light, Elias studied her, this woman from another world who had crashed into his life. The past week of sharing his small habitat had created something between them, a connection he couldn't name but couldn't deny. Maybe my reason is that for the first time since coming to this dust ball, I don't feel alone, he admitted. Talia's eyes widened slightly, the patterns beneath her skin pulsing with new intensity. She moved toward him with deliberate purpose, until they were breathing the same recycled cavern air. On Celestia, she whispered, we have a concept called Calidra, souls who recognize each other across vast differences. When she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his, Elias discovered that whatever biological differences existed between their species, the language of desire translated perfectly. The abandoned mining prefab had become their sanctuary during 2 weeks of hiding in the wilderness beyond the colony's perimeter. Elias had managed to access the station's systems remotely, monitoring communications while maintaining his disappearance as an equipment malfunction accident. They're still searching the northern quadrant, he reported, closing his portable terminal. But they've requested additional personnel. We're running out of time. Talia stood at the prefab's small window, watching Helios 7's twin moons rise over the crimson landscape. Her white hair gleamed in the moonlight, and Elias found himself once again struck by her otherworldly beauty. I've contacted someone who might help, he said, joining her. An old academy friend who runs cargo routes, not entirely legal ones. She turned to him, the bioluminescent patterns beneath her skin pulsing with concern. You trust this person with both our lives. Devon owes me. Big time. Elias gently tucked a strand of hair behind her pointed ear. And yes, I trust him with your life, which matters more to me than my own at this point. The simple truth of his statement hung between them. In the 2 weeks since their escape, Their initial connection had deepened into something neither had anticipated. Each night spent in close quarters, each revelation shared, had intertwined their fates beyond pragmatic alliance. "I need to show you something," Talia said suddenly. "Before we risk escape. Before you sacrifice more." She stepped back and slowly untied the rough colony shirt she'd been wearing. As it fell away, Elias's breath caught, not just at her beauty, but at what was revealed. The center of her chest housed a small crystalline formation, partially embedded in her skin, pulsing with soft blue light. "The heart of Estrella," she explained as he stared. "It's why my cousin wants me dead. Only the royal bloodline carries this. Direct neural connection to our planet's core consciousness. It's how we govern, how we connect with our world's essence." Elias reached out hesitantly, then paused. "May I?" At her nod, he gently touched the crystal. Immediately, his mind flooded with sensations, vast starfields, ancient knowledge, the humming connection of billions of consciousnesses across generations. "This is," he whispered, overwhelmed, "why I can never be just a refugee." She completed his thought. "With this, I am Celestia's rightful voice. My cousin can never truly rule while I live." She covered his hand with hers, pressing it closer to the crystal. The connection deepened, and Elias felt her emotions flowing into him, her fear, her determination, and something else warming every corner of his consciousness. "I shared my mind with no other being," she whispered. When they kissed this time, the crystal pulsed between them, creating a feedback loop of sensation and emotion. They moved to the prefab's small cot, exploration giving way to certainty as clothing fell away and differences became complementary rather than divisive. Their joining transcended physical pleasure, the crystal connecting them in ways mere humans could never experience, while their bodies found their own ancient rhythm. In those moments, the alien and the human ceased to exist as separate categories. Afterward, as they lay entwined, Talia traced patterns on his chest. "Tomorrow, we attempt escape. If we succeed." "When we succeed," Elias corrected, "I will need to eventually reclaim my position. Challenge my cousin. It will be dangerous." Elias kissed her forehead. "I signed up for dangerous the moment I decided not to report a smuggled alien princess." "You signed up for temporary protection," she countered, "not interstellar political warfare." "I signed up for you," he said simply, "whatever that entails." The communication device chirped before she could respond. Devon's coded message, transport arranged for dawn. The spaceport's emergency landing pad lay shrouded in pre-dawn darkness, exactly as Devon had promised. The small cargo ship waited, engines idling at minimum power to avoid detection. "Approach from the service corridor." Devon's voice crackled through Elias's communicator, quick and quiet. "I'm showing 3 patrol units on the main concourse." Elias squeezed Talia's hand as they crept through the maintenance access, staying low beneath pike junctions. Her skin had taken on a paler hue, stress affecting her bioluminescent patterns. The past 3 months had taught him to read her biology as clearly as facial expressions. "Almost there," he whispered. The emergency pad's airlock appeared ahead, just 50 meters of exposed tarmac between them and freedom. Elias scanned the area once more, then nodded. "Now." They sprinted across the open space, boots silent on the composite surface. 30 meters. 20. 10. The shot came from nowhere, a focused pulse that caught Elias in the shoulder, spinning him to the ground. Talia cried out, dropping beside him as 3 figures emerged from behind the landing struts. "Seventh daughter of Estrella," the leader called in accented standard. "Your exile ends now." Elias struggled to stand, his left arm numb from the energy pulse. "Run," he urged Talia. "Get to the ship." "I will not leave you," she hissed, helping him to his feet. The Celestian agents advanced, weapons raised. "Step away from the human, princess. His life need not end here." Talia straightened, her royal bearing emerging despite weeks of hardship. "You serve a false ruler." Return to my cousin with this message. I live, and I will return. There will be no messages, the agent replied coldly, adjusting his weapon setting. Only confirmation of your unfortunate demise during an escape attempt. Elias lunged forward as the agent fired, throwing himself into the blast path. The energy pulse caught him squarely in the chest, dropping him to the tarmac. Elias. Talia's scream contained harmonics he'd never heard, a royal command in her native tongue. Through pain-blurred vision, Elias watched as the crystal at Talia's chest flared with blinding intensity. The agents staggered back, their weapons falling from suddenly nerveless fingers. Talia stood over him, her entire body illuminated from within, hair floating in an energy field of her own creation. You will not take him from me, she said, her voice resonating with power. The lead agent dropped to his knees, blood trickling from his ears. The others followed, overcome by frequencies pitched to celestian neural pathways. Devon appeared from the ship, wide-eyed at the scene. What the hell? Help me with him, Talia commanded, her royal authority brooking no argument. Together they dragged Elias aboard as colony alarms began to wail. The ship's engines roared to life as Devon rushed to the controls, launching them into Helios 7's bloody dawn sky. In the cargo hold, Talia cradled Elias's head, tears falling onto his face. Stay with me, she whispered, pressing her crystal to his wound. Stay with me. Light flowed between them, her life force temporarily bridging his damaged systems. Elias gasped as energy surged through him, not healing but stabilizing. Always knew you were more than a pet, he managed, his attempt at humor weak but present. Talia's laugh came through tears. And you are more than a technician. 6 months later, aboard the resistance vessel Starhawk, Elias adjusted the neural interface connecting him to the ship's environmental systems. The Celestian crystal fragment embedded in his chest, Talia's gift during his healing, pulsed in harmony with the machinery. The resistance leaders are waiting, said Devon, now their transport captain. They've received the transmission from sympathizers in the royal court. Elias nodded, making his way to the command deck where Talia stood before a holographic display of Celestia Prime. No longer a fugitive princess, but a resistance commander, she had transformed their escape into a movement, one that rescued other trafficked beings while gathering support to challenge her cousin's illegitimate rule. She turned as he entered, her face lighting with the smile she reserved only for him. The months together had erased the final barriers between their worlds, his humanity complementing her Celestian abilities in ways that had already become legendary among their growing forces. Ready to change history? She asked as he took his place beside her. Elias took her hand, their matching crystal fragments resonating together. I only wanted a pet, he teased. Instead, I found a revolution. And I found freedom, she replied, pressing her forehead to his in the Celestian gesture of deepest connection. Not just from captivity, but to choose my own path. And who walks it with me? As the assembled leaders awaited their words, Elias reflected on the strange journey from lonely technician to interstellar revolutionary. The companion crate had promised to end his solitude, never specifying it would do so by giving him a cause, a war, and a love that transcended worlds. It was, he decided as Talia began their address, the best lottery he'd ever won.